This is another episode of the COVID-19 Timeline, a special Real History series by Mike in Canada. And it is now May 2020. And it's so interesting and sobering to put yourself back into the timeline there. And I think that for me, what watching this series does is put me there. I can remember where I was, what I was doing, what the concerns were, what worries and things that I was hearing at that time. It puts me right back there. And for some of you may not want to go back there, but I think it's a good thing to remember.
Notion that this is going to be life for us, some form of it, for 2 years until enough immunity gets built up.
Well, that's right. Either we get immunity through a vaccine, which obviously that's a hopeful scenario that we'll have a vaccine early next year. I think we have to be very cautious about that. Otherwise, this virus will keep marching through our population. Even when we try to smother it, it'll keep coming back over and over again. And we very well could have that big peak that we talked about that could occur in mid to late summer, early fall. That peak could, in many ways, make all the previous peaks seem like nothing more than foothills.
South Koreans flocked to an amusement park in Seoul during a long holiday weekend. Social distancing rules in the country have now relaxed, but people still had to keep 2 meters apart. South Korea has largely brought its outbreak under control with a big testing campaign and intense contact testing.
Julia tested positive for COVID-19, which doctors believe triggered a rare and serious complication, cardiac arrest.
Her heart was barely pumping, it was barely functioning.
Across the country, doctors in coronavirus hotspots are reporting an increasing number of kids with severe inflammation affecting the heart and other organs. In this Long Island hospital, there have been 17 cases in the last week. Today, the world's top experts identifying a new syndrome in kids linked to COVID-19, inflammation that can send the body into a state of shock and cause organ failure. Parents should watch for symptoms like fever with a rash, red eyes, or abdominal pain, which was Julia Daly's main symptom.
Pfizer says the first U.S. study participants have received the experimental vaccine. The pharmaceutical giant is partnering with the German biotechnology company BioNTech in the effort. The first study participants in Germany finished receiving the vaccine last week. Now, the companies are actually testing 4 vaccine candidates in a single trial, each with a different combination and target antigen. The initial testing will enroll up to 360 healthy volunteers, age 18 to 55 and 65 to 85.
But our real objective, our initial objective, was actually to identify the regions in the SARS-CoV-2 genome that are less variable. So essentially, regions of the genome that are constraints, where change doesn't happen easily. And these are also the best targets for vaccines and drugs. There are currently about over 100 vaccines in development. Some of them are very likely to succeed. However, what is also important for the kind of long-run success of these vaccines is that they target regions of the virus which cannot easily change, because
China has accused U.S. Secretary of State Mike Pompeo of repeatedly telling lies in his attacks on how Beijing handled the coronavirus outbreak. The Chinese Foreign Ministry said this on Thursday, reiterating that American politicians are making baseless accusations against them. The U.S. has accused China of mishandling the coronavirus pandemic. illusionist Roy Horn died on Friday of complications with COVID-19. The 75-year-old starred in Siegfried and Roy, the popular and long-running Las Vegas entertainment act built around rare white tigers. They ended their performances in 2003 after Horn was attacked on stage by a tiger. Siegfried, the other half of the duo, told a Las Vegas paper that he lost his best friend. Three senior officials guiding the American response to the pandemic, including Dr. Anthony Fauci, were in self-quarantine on Saturday. This is after they had come into contact with someone who had tested positive for the virus. The other two officials are Robert Redfield, the head of the CDC, and the FDA Commissioner Stephen Hahn.
Hello, I'm Tom Clark. This is your coronavirus update for Monday, the 11th of May. Around the world, the number of confirmed coronavirus cases stands at 4,132,365. There have been 238,387 deaths. 1,422,745 people have recovered from the virus. The government is considering allowing people to expand their household group during lockdown. The Scientific Advisory Group for Emergencies is assessing whether two households can form an exclusive bubble. The idea was proposed by the government following the Prime Minister's speech on Sunday.
Many patients may suffer with coronavirus for 7 to 10 days and then begin to recover. Others, when they start to feel better or expect to start to feel better, they hit something called the COVID cliff and they get much sicker very quickly, and many don't survive. Now that the second phase of the remdesivir drug trial is beginning, including the anti-inflammatory baricitinib, there is some hope that if positive results come out of that trial, that those who reach the COVID cliff could end up with a better outcome.
To put this on the table, this virus may become just another endemic virus in our communities. And this virus may never go away. HIV has not gone away, but we've come to terms with the virus, and we have found the therapies, and we've found the prevention methods, and we're offering life to people with HIV, long, healthy lives.
At a Moscow hospital, the ambulances line up. Some can wait for hours to deliver their patients.
Выезжаем из 19-й больнички. Только что сдали больную. 9 часов стояли.
This ambulance crew's lament was widely reposted by Russians as their country experienced a surge in COVID-19 cases. RFE.
This morning, the CDC giving doctors a critical checklist, specific criteria for a syndrome identified in a growing number of children over the last several weeks. Fever, inflammation, at least 2 organs impacted, and a positive test for COVID-19, antibodies, or COVID exposure 4 weeks before the onset of symptoms. Symptoms, which are described as similar to Kawasaki disease, include rash, red eyes or tongue, and abdominal pain. The syndrome is rare but potentially deadly.
There are special receptors on the eye that can bind the COVID-19 coronavirus.
While the coronavirus typically enters the body through the nose and mouth, Dr. Ella Faktorovich says there is growing evidence the eyes, too, may be vulnerable.
The eye is a bit of a mystery area right now. We know that the receptors that the virus likes to bind to, they're present on the eye.
Level, the data now support moving to step 3 in England from next Monday, the 17th of May. This means the rule of 6 or 2 households that is applied outdoors will now apply indoors, and the limit for outdoor meetings will increase to 30. From next Monday, you'll be able to sit inside a pub and inside a restaurant. You'll be able to go to the cinema, and children will be able to use indoor play areas.
The results are encouraging, even if they come from tests on only 8 people. Half received a low dose of the vaccine, the other half a medium-sized dose.
Even at the lowest dose that we tested, the 25 microgram dose, we are already seeing an immune response at the level of people who've been infected with this virus and are believed now not to be susceptible to further disease.
These early results are the first available from a trial that tested 45 people in all. Some received a high dose and showed some side effects, so that dosage will no longer be tested.
We had to find a solution to help hospital to give them more masks. So we had the idea to convert a traditional snorkeling mask into a respiratory one.
Duration of the patient cannot influence the doctors and other patients.
Now these students are going to schools for the first time this year since the outbreak of the COVID-19. But they have been conducting classes online since early April. Now all the students are wearing masks, and before they can go in, they need to get their temperatures checked and also their hands sanitized. The first day of school is getting so much attention, the superintendent of the Seoul Education Office is having a media scrum here at Gyeongbok High School. I ask him what happens if there is an outbreak at school.
아닙니다. 학교가 휴업에 들어갑니다. 개별 학교가 휴업에 들어가는 겁니다.
다른 학교들은 괜찮아요?
예, 그리고 이제 학교 구성원들에 대한 검사를 들어간다든지.
UK health workers will take part in a global study into hydroxychloroquine. The anti-malarial drug is being used by US President Donald Trump, who claims it can prevent COVID-19. Participants from Brighton and Oxford make up some of the 40,000 people involved in the clinical trial.
They're also watching closely to see if the virus mutates to become more or less lethal. So there are a host of factors to take into account when trying to plan for a potential second wave. It's not certain that one will happen, and the early development of a reliable vaccine would be a game-changing moment. But until then, if mistakes are made when changing control measures, the virus could spread rapidly all over again.
It is a sound, conclusive study. The number of people that have been included in this retrospective study is tremendous, and it is definitely clear that not only hydroxychloroquine worsen the future of the patient, it actually double the death rate of inpatients. So it is absolutely clear now that this drug should not be used. The trouble was that the promoters of that regimen were asking people to believe in them. And when it comes to science, you don't believe, you have a clear demonstration or you don't. Now we have.
Calgary's Riverwalk was a popular place Sunday, though people appeared to be following physical distancing guidelines, a far cry from the scene in this Toronto park on Saturday.
You know, I thought it was a rock concert at the beginning when I went out there. I was absolutely shocked.
The images came as a shock to some frontline health workers too.
I'm really saddened when I see that, because I wonder if those people know the sacrifices that people like myself, my colleagues in the emergency room and the ICU are making.
In one of the studies, researchers infected 9 monkeys with COVID-19 and they recovered. Afterwards, they were again exposed to the virus, but they did not get sick. The findings suggest that they do develop natural immunity that protects against re-exposure. A second study involved 25 monkeys, all of which were tested using 6 prototype vaccines to see if antibodies produced in response were protective. They were then exposed to the virus alongside 10 control animals, but 8 of the vaccinated animals were completely protected.
The World Health Organization has halted testing of the anti-malaria drug hydroxychloroquine as a possible treatment for COVID-19. It cited safety fears after studies questioned its safety. One of them, published in the Lancet Medical Journal, suggested the drug could increase the risk of death among COVID-19 patients. The study had looked at the records of 96,000 patients across hundreds of hospitals.
Pfizer has entered into a partnership with a German biotechnology company called BioNTech to develop a COVID vaccine that uses cutting-edge technology called messenger RNA technology. For the last 10 years, Wall Street and biotechnology companies have been very excited about this idea. And what essentially it is trying to hack the cells in the body in order to make them into drug factories. And as a result, in this case, technology would be used to make portions of the virus's spike protein in order to induce an immune response that will create neutralizing antibodies to the virus. The problem with this approach is there has never been an approved mRNA product.
More than 100,000 people in the U.S. have died from COVID-19 since the outbreak began. President Donald Trump tweeted the nation has reached a very sad milestone and that he wants to extend his heartfelt sympathy and love for everything that these great people stood for and represent. Trump has been urging states to reopen after coronavirus lockdowns. This past Friday, he warned state governors to reopen places of worship or he would override them.
The human cost of COVID-19 has been devastating, and the so-called lockdown measures have turned lives upside down. But the pandemic has given us a glimpse of what our world could look like if we took the bold steps that are needed to curb climate change and air pollution. Our air and water can be cleaner, our streets can be quieter and safer, and many of us have found new ways to work while spending more time with our families. As some countries start to reopen their societies and economies, the question we must answer is whether we will just return to the way things were, or whether we will learn the lessons the pandemic is teaching us about our relationship with our planet. Building back better means building back greener.
From empty highways at rush hour to deserted downtown streets, COVID-19 has changed the way people work and live. And while the economy may have come to a halt, the environment is benefiting in a big way. Since lockdowns began in March, satellite images show a roughly 30% decline in nitrogen dioxide emissions, a gas produced when fossil fuels are burned to power and heat cars and buildings. It's roughly the same progress Canada made in the last decade through stringent regulations on vehicle emissions.
This morning, as all 50 states loosened restrictions, a grim milestone has been reached. 6 million coronavirus cases confirmed worldwide. And with so many protests taking place across the country overnight, demonstrators crowded together, many without masks, officials are concerned about protesters failing to heed social distancing guidelines.